think he's been absent once. Russ Moore. Who's hot? Who's not? We're going to blow it up?
But I'm not absent today.
You're not absent today.
What's up, everybody?
Because, you got to sing for your supper after, you kind of fell a little short there in Traverse predictions.
Yes, after the race, I was even more poor than I was before the race. So, yep, another loss. Wasn't like the Kentucky Derby, but...
Well, it's going to happen sometime that you're going to come in here, make some great prediction, and then the next week come back, and I'll be like, Bob.
That happened once. Remember the Kentucky Derby
Once,
this year?
Maybe
it'll happen again.
Hell did freeze over once.
Yes, even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
Blind squirrel nut, yes.
Once in a while.
So let's go through who's hot and who's not this week in Rhode Island. The world according to Russ.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Let's talk about, I had it pulled up here. I usually have my notes right in front of me. And Christine Freck, Teach for America.
Yes, I put Ms. Freck on the hot list for Teach for America because it's back to school week this week. And high schools are starting, middle schools, colleges, and I just want to give some love to the teachers out there. And I saw Ms. Freck on here, and she gave a great interview. Inspired by her message that we need to eventually, or sooner than later, come up with an educational system where everybody gets the same excellent education regardless of what zip code they live in. And I think that Teach for America is working to make that happen, trying to be innovative in education, and I salute them for that. So I wanted to show her some love and put her on the hot list today.
She is on the hot list.
That's right.
Someone on the hot list, Mayor Jorge Loaiza.
Yeah, I wanted to give the mayor some credit because I've been tough on the mayor, which I think we should be, but I wanted to give him some love because I do agree with his proposal to go out to bond and borrow $200 million and fix our schools, because our schools are in deplorable condition. They've got mold, they've got rotting roofs, they're crumbling basically. So I think it's long overdue. We have to upgrade these buildings. This is an investment. I think that when we have schools we can be proud of, our students will be more proud to be there, and they'll work harder and they'll learn more. So I think this is a no-brainer. I know that we are drowning in a sea of red ink, and it's easy to argue that the solution to debt is not more debt, but at the same time, what are we doing if we can't, house our students? We can't do anything. So I think this is a very important measure, and I salute the mayor for doing it.
Okay, Mayor Jorge Loaiza, let's keep going down the list. Budweiser.
Yeah, I thought that it was really heartening move by the major beer producer, beer behemoth, so to speak. They stopped making beer and they started sending water with their trucks to Houston in lieu of making beer. I'm sure some of the folks going through what they were going through really appreciated that. So it's good to see corporations or corporate America do the right thing, and in this case Budweiser did, so I wanted to show Budweiser a little love. So maybe tonight after I'm done with this, I'll go to one of the establishments around here and drink a Budweiser to salute them.
Salute Bud. A lot of folks down in Houston and the surrounding areas, we see them in the news. We could put them all on the hot list.
Yes.
Businesses, the furniture stores just opening their doors. So there was some controversy with Joel Osteen and the mega church down
Joel
there.
Osteen.
But, a lot of folks, stepping up in a time of need. So Budweiser, and to everyone who's been supporting the folks in Houston, they're on the hot list.
Yes, hot list.
Okay. Wouldn't it be a hot or not list if there wasn't someone sports related on it? Jared Donaldson.
Yep, he's only 20 years old, and he's played in the U.S. Open, and he won his first match, moved on to the round of 64, and he didn't fare as well. He lost in 5 sets to a really high-ranking pro, so Frenchman named Pouy. So he gave him he's a top 15 ranked player, so he played one of the best in the world, and it took him 5 sets to go down. So I really feel like, if not next, it's not next major, maybe the one after that, but sometime in the next year, we're going to see like a top 16 finish by this youngster. And I feel like he's got so much potential, but we're not really talking about him enough. I feel like I don't hear the buzz around Rhode Island. Maybe it's because tennis isn't that popular, but we have a potential superstar on the making. He's only 20 years old, and he's going to break through, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Okay, Jared Donaldson. Someone who was like a local Rhode Islander kind of exploding on the national stage, Steve Rosa.
Yeah, I saw the interview here, Mr. Rosa with Adventures. I thought he was really articulate. I thought it was funny. And it's good to see someone from here doing international business. He has the contract for
AOC. It's a Taiwanese-based company.
Yeah.
They are the agency of record in Latin America. Again, Providence-based business.
Now, what happened with him when you first met him? You thought he was a model, but you thought he was a him? Or what did you tell me that story?
Steve was just making up a story. I'm listening to him, and I'm like, So when we were at our old digs at 44 Weybosset, there was a kind of a shoot taking place across the street over there, and he was there. He was kind of joking about us running together at that shoot. He said that I'd mistaken him for one of the actors, so I kind of was playing along with
all
that.
right. You guys sold me. I was sold on that. My God.
Sure thing. Well, yes, no, great story, obviously.
Yeah.
Again, see a Providence-based business
And
on the
he's
international
pretty
stage.
persuasive because I believed that story. So.
Well, I can act.
And you play, you too, by the
I
way.
play one on TV.
Yeah.
So we talked about Budweiser, talked about Steve and Jared. Back to school is hot. I don't know if maybe some high school students might disagree with you.
They might disagree, but I'm sure their parents would actually agree. Although maybe they have to make them do homework, so maybe it's not so easy to be a parent of a high school student. But I think back to school is hot. Yeah, because the college students are back, and they're really good for tourism. They shop. They go out to eat, they go out to drink. So I think it's going to be a boon to the economy, and it's always good to see a lot of young people around. So I think back to school is a cool thing. And it's the end of the summer, and I've had enough of the heat anyway. So
well, it cooled down a little bit today, but I think maybe warm on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, and you know what? It also is cool about back to school. It's back with football, right? Football's back. College football's back in a big way. Pro football, Patriots are going to start. So I think it's a cool time of year. If you had asked me this when I was a high school student, though, you're right. I'd probably disagree.
First Pats game Thursday?
Yes, that's right.
Against the Chiefs.
That's right.
Going to be a tough game?
No. No, I think the Patriots will win.
Patriots, okay, you heard it here first. Russ Moore. Let's go to the not hot list. Bishop Tobin.
Yeah, I just feel like the bishop, as head of the Diocese of Providence, should have done more to protect the pension fund. For years, when the diocese was in charge, he was chairman of the board in charge of the pension fund, and they didn't make the full pension fund contribution. Some years they didn't make any of the contributions. So I just feel like it was a major blunder on the church's part, and they had a responsibility to protect these pensioners, and they didn't do it. So I think that there's a lot of blame to go around in this whole St. Joseph Pension Fund bankruptcy. And whether you want to mention the Attorney General for letting the merger happen, or you want to mention Bishop Tobin, but he was certainly someone who deserves a good amount of the blame. So I put him on the not hot list, and I think he deserves to be there.
Well, he's got plenty of questions to be answered, has not made any statements at this point. GoLocal has been at the forefront on reporting on this issue.
That's for sure.
One of the tweets have gone out, I saw someone retweet it at the Pope.
At the Pope.
At the
okay.
Pope.
Yeah, we get the Pope to weigh in because the Pope has plenty to say. So.
Well, they said, dear Pope, you're going to make these Rhode Islanders whole. So we will continue to be following.
And the Pope. It's a good tweet because the Pope seems to have all the answers. So I mean, maybe he can answer this. That's great. I like that.
A million followers on Twitter. People want to know what the Pope's. He's social media savvy.
I guess so. Or someone close to him is.
Somebody close to him. You have Senator Sheldon Whitehouse on the not hot list.
Sure. You caught up with Senator Whitehouse and you asked him about his association with Bailey's, the ultra-exclusive beach club in Newport. And it seems to be basically all white, all the members. And I know that the senator has spoken out against bigotry and racism, as well he should. And when you asked him about his association with this all-white, ultra-prestigious club, he said something to the effect of, I think they should change some things. I'd like to see some things change. That's really a lukewarm statement. That's not leadership. I think the senator can do better than that. That's a punt. So, I mean, that answer didn't give me the warm and fuzzy feeling that, I might have wanted to hear. He could have been a little more forceful. So, it also seemed like he didn't like being asked that question either. And I think he needs to be asked that question, and we deserve an answer. So, Sheldon, you've earned yourself a place on my not hot list for the second week in a row.
Okay, the world according to Russ, BRU is not hot.
Sad, right? I mean, I remember listening to BRU when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and I thought I would never stop listening to BRU. It's always been one of my favorite radio stations. I love that it's always been staffed by youngsters, and you can hear new music that I might otherwise not be exposed to, because let's face it, young people are more hip than me. So I always
definitely way more hip than me.
Yeah, well, I'll speak for myself. No, I won't speak for you. But definitely way more hip than me, so I could learn the cool new alternative music. I thought it's something that we'd always have, and to see it go away, is on the radio dial at least, makes me feel kind of sad.
That's the point. It is on the radio dial. Now, we did have a few pieces on GoLocal today, sort of getting the feedback from folks. We did talk with Talkers Magazine. Now, this is sort of the Bible of radio.
It is.
Michael, they even acknowledged that, a lot of radio is going to internet. He thought this was a smart move, that they were ahead of the curve, and that the longer they wait, the less money they'll get down the line. Now, again, we did have a
Where is he from?
Talkers Magazine.
Yeah, but where are they located?
New England here. Knows the situation here.
Yeah.
We talked about other university radios, and he's like, hanging on to prestige for prestige's sake. He thought maybe they're ahead of the curve. Now, we did have a former BRU student from Brown, who's a recent Brown alum, in the studio yesterday. The big story on GoLocal today, going through how the sale had the process transpired. He mentioned how the board had to go to the students to get them to vote. The first vote, they voted not to sell it. The second vote, they were under pressure to do so. Even after the second vote, he said they were told not to talk to the media about it.
Right.
So even he recognized, he said, look, I know that's not going to be on terrestrial radio forever, but he made the point that most successful radio stations that have gone online do it in tandem, that they sort of offer both services, because you can't change behaviors overnight. So it was an interesting perspective. I mean, he wasn't hanging on for nostalgia's sake, but he was saying, hey, let's take a look at how this process worked. They're going to the AG's office. He didn't think that they followed. We'll see. We'll see if they lawyer up.
See, he said that, we shouldn't get nostalgic about it, but I feel nostalgic about it. So
because you're old.
Yes.
Because, Russ, you're old.
You got me. So, you owe me that. So I put them on the not hot list because I like BRU on the radio, and they're not there,
Most
so I'm
folks
mad.
like it.
So I made them not hot. And it might make all the logical sense in the world, but I don't like it.
It's not hot in Russ's book. He wants to hear his Nirvana and not K-Love.
And Green Day. And I want to hear the new stuff, too. I like the mix. So.
Well, maybe
I'm shedding a tear about this.
Maybe behaviors are going to have to change. You're going to have to...
I know. I don't want to adapt.
Get your news and politics online.
I like that. I like that.
Well,
but my music,
Your music, it's all going here. So.
All right. I gotta get on
I'm
board.
making the case. I know it's the world
You're doing
according
a
to
good
Russ,
job.
but I'm pushing back.
I like it.
Okay, so let's keep going down the not hot list here. I'm pulling it up. I'm actually looking at it on mobile and not my notes.
Imagine that.
Because I'll put someone else on the not hot list for lack of storage space on my phone. Of course, the Texas flooding. There could be nothing more hot than what's happening.
Oh my God, it's so sad, to see these people, see their homes damaged. I think at this point, at least 40 people have died due to this flooding, and it's just awful to see. My heart goes out to these people. It is nice to see so many people come together and try and help these people. That is kind of heartwarming, but it's always very depressing to see a national disaster like this. So it's obviously like the least hot thing that could happen. So of course I had to throw that on the list.
We can all sort of play Monday morning quarterback here of what happened, who was evacuated when. We did actually have someone from Houston Skype in earlier this week, Angela Blanchard, will be working on the recovery effort, and she said, you just can't move, 6 million people. That's Houston and sort of the surrounding areas. But we had Bob Whitcomb in yesterday, and he's always good for politics and environmental musings. And
he's good for everything.
He's good for everything.
Yeah.
He just busts out the quotes, the quips.
He's like a utility infielder. You can put him anywhere. You can ask him anything.
Ask him anything. He's always good for some insights. And one of the things he brought up, was the planning of Houston. Now, folks do know it's in a floodplain.
Sure.
But just saying, look like a lot of cement, not a lot of places for that water to go. And so you never want to, point fingers now, but, you've seen deaths, you've seen the destruction. And so he said, maybe there should have been a little more thought into some mitigation and where the water would end up. Marshes and sort of just more trees and, places like that, and not just cement, housing.
100% right.
So that's Bob. He's smart. Love having him in.
Yes, he is. And I agree with him.
Okay, a couple more items on the not hot list here. We'll talk about summer movies.
The box office this year is down 16% over last year. And I thought the movies last year were terrible. So this year they're even worse apparently because no one's going. So it's not a good time for the movies. They need to stop just cranking out, sequel after sequel or remake after remake. We need some original thought. I think then that the people will respond better and go to the movies more often. There'll be more must-see movies. But again, I know people are going to say that with the advent of $400 55-inch televisions in people's homes, they don't feel the need to spend $20 to go to the movies and $10 for popcorn and $8 for soda when they can just buy the movie in 2 months and pop it in for $15. I get that, but there is something to be said about seeing a movie on the big screen. I like going to the movies. Do you?
I like going to the movies.
But you got to give me something. You can't give me the same movie all the time.
Don't give Russ Moore schlock, okay?
Yeah, don't give me the same thing. So I think that Hollywood is not hot, and they make the same movies. They remake them. They reboot them. So I think that that's the reason for their decline in sales. So hopefully they'll learn.
We'll also see, I'm sure there's been a lot written about this as well, but, there's so much good TV, and especially, Netflix and HBO and folks who are, Game of Thrones. They spend as much per episode as, 90% of movie budgets out there. I mean, they're producing these movie quality that you can see weekly. It's, you know, it's like watching the NFL. Like, I occasionally like going to games. I want to be in my living room. I want to be able to get up and go to the bathroom. I want to be able to get out and not get out of the parking lot.
Have a drink of water for not $7. But you mentioned Game of Thrones. I feel like they're getting worse and worse too as this last season compared to the season before.
They're not going to be on for another 2 years.
It's 2 years?
2 years is what I've been reading.
Well, forget about it by then. We'll be watching something else in 2 years.
Russ Moore is editing right now. He's putting Game of Thrones on the not hot list.
We should have spoke about this earlier. I would have threw them on.
Why did you tell me they were not?
No, there's always next week.
So lastly on the not hot list, you put National Legacy Meeting. You were not too pleased with the attention paid to Melania.
Yeah, I mean, we've got these people who are like dying and they're like, they don't have water. And I think that's the big story. I don't think the big story is Melania's high heels. Oh, you shouldn't wear those to a flood. I just think that the attention is on the superficial when it should be on the more meaningful, especially at a time like this. Now, one of my friends did point out, because I had mentioned that, you know, if this was a Democrat president, would the same scrutiny be put? And one of my friends actually texted me this morning, and he pointed out the controversy when Michelle Obama wore a bare-arm dress to the State of the Union, and she caught some blowback from the conservative media. So it is a bipartisan thing, I will say that. But at the same time, I just feel like we shouldn't be talking about the First Lady's hat or the First Lady's heels. We should be talking about what really matters, which is people's lives.
I think
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here.
Oh, I'm wrong. All right.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. And I'm saying the
saying
attention paid to it, as you know, folks like to see in times, you know, this is a test. It's a test for the president, and it's, you know, how he and the First Lady, you know, relate. You know, the people who make the argument that, you know, they were never going to go to flood-ravaged areas, but, you know, could they relate to the common person? Are they not in the, you know, $10,000, you know, set up and the hair and the heels, you know, but, you know.
They had to do something. If they didn't do anything, it's no, we can't relate to you common people at a time like this. So you're
I'm just saying.
You know, and think about George Bush when he wore a flight jacket on the aircraft carrier and declared major combat operations over in Iraq in 2003.
I thought you were going to mention Mike Dukakis.
Well, you know, in 2003, I mean, he caught flack for wearing inappropriate things. So sometimes it seems like, you know, the president can't win one way or the other, and this is one of those situations. So I just thought the media should focus more on the real.
All right, I'm just putting up the other side of things.
I like it when you do that. You know, we got to have a little balance.
A little back and forth.
Absolutely.
We're gonna let you start your weekend. Go have a couple Budweisers.
I will do that. You don't have to tell me twice. Up top.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next week.
All right.
After the long weekend, Russ Moore breaking down who he says is hot and not here in Rhode Island and the rest of the country. So, as always, appreciate Russ Moore.